Hello, this is going to be the Valorant patch notes 5.12 rundown. Spectre and agents changes, so like 15 agents, and a lot of it is to do with agent ultimates, agent ability economy, and HP of destructible objects, and how that interacts with how like utility interacts with them basically. And I'm going to start off with breach. So running thunder has been increased for all points, which is interesting because I think breach is not that strong. I think he's pretty much I think he's playable on Fracture and every other map. I don't think you touch him. Maybe Haven. Haven's like very close to me. But I don't think you'd touch him. I think he's one of the worst agents in the game. And I think it's a miracle that he gets played in competitive. Honestly, a lot of the time you're giving up positional advantage to play around breach. And I can go over that in a video as well. I might do actually because I think it's very important for my outlandish stance on breach. I think. But the ult points being increased. Very a good change, I think, overall from Riot to pinpoint what is his strong point, because I think they obviously have a different opinion of breach than I do. So from their point of view, this is a pretty good change. It's like the strongest ability of breach being nerfed, and I think that he's in a stronger spot than I think. And I clearly think he's in deserving enough. I don't think he was deserving enough really, but I think 8 points does make sense for his ult. But I think they also need to bring in more changes to buff the rest of his basic kit, to really make this make sense, in my opinion. Anyway, so Chamber, Headhunter Q updated stability curve. So, essentially, second bullet when spamming is worse at range. Most of the time you're not going to be spamming at range anyway. So I don't know why this. I mean, I do know why this change happens, right? Because people that can't play him are spamming at range, and this is going to make it so you have to learn chamber and you have to be better at aiming to actually make use of this, to actually make use of his Q. You can't just spam and kills at range. That's good. Rendezvous. Chamber now places a single anchor that can be teleported to while inside its range. Radius increased from 7.5 meters to 13 meters. Remove teleport activation height restriction. Increase weapon equip time after teleporting from 0.4 to 0.7 seconds. Destroying a headhunter is unaffected by this change. Destroying rendezvous teleport to anchor now disables it for the round at the end. It is being placed on cooldown. Chamber no longer incurs an additional cooldown. Recalling his anchor after teleporting, and health decreased from 80 to 50. So I'm going to go through all the changes one by one. Chamber now has a single anchor, so what that means is, in my Chamber versus Jet video, I went over the main strength of Chamber and why he was broken. And the main thing that why he was broken was because of this change, essentially, was because of what this changes. When he has two anchors, he can teleport, he can get the first kill, teleport across the map, and then post in a different position that the enemy team is going to want to rotate into. Potentially rotate into anyway. And it's sort of like a mind game, right? Because the enemy team don't have an understanding of where he actually is, right? They technically don't have to hear that. They don't have to hear, if they don't hear the anchor, they don't know where he is, right? He can still be in the place where he got the kill, or he can be across the map. So that was like the main problem that I think people would face when playing against Chamber, is that you didn't know if you had to rotate or not. And it was like a gamble. It's 50-50. Do I actually rotate and gamble that Chambers like stayed, or do I go or do we like stay and gamble that he went somewhere else? So it was like a very impossible gambling type of game in mid round to understand what you actually had to do to pull back a 4v5 against Chamber a lot of the time, and that made it very, very frustrating. At least for me, for me, it made it frustrating to play against Chamber when he get the first kill, and then you kind of didn't know where he was after that. And the radius has been increased because of the single anchor changes. His radius has been increased. So from what I could tell online, I haven't played with these changes yet because my internet's been down. I haven't been able to do the patch notes either. But apparently this is too small from what I've heard from professional players and things. I don't know 100%. It's not my opinion yet. I don't know 100% if this is true or not. But I'm leaning towards it, probably because of the amount of people that have said this is too small. That could also mean that there is like some bias going on where they thought that Chamber should have been stronger than this. Basically, they can remember the old Chamber that was really strong, and now, you know, it feels very weak. But maybe when we get used to it, it'll get better. Maybe it'll still stay the same. Maybe this is still too small when we get used to these changes. So We'll see, I guess. Probably will end up moving up this amount of meat. Probably not very much though. It's probably going up to like 15. It probably won't go up very much. Remove teleport, activation, height restriction. This is mainly for the buy phase when you want to get on the high ground. And I think overall that's basically it. Maybe if you want to hide your rendezvous, but bear in mind you are going to teleport to it. So I think some of these changes are very weird now that they're single anchor. Like the during rendezvous teleport anchor now disables it for the run of the round. I mean, most of the time you're either going to die before your anchor does, or somehow you've managed to hang the anchor in a place where you can't wait it's going to die before you. Like I don't know, it just seems very weird. Unless maybe it's like wall bangable and then someone destroys it with a wall bang, or I guess actually wait, it can also die to utility now. So maybe someone like throws I guess raise nade and things like that, right? Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I guess that's like basically the only reason. But at the same time, it being on cooldown and shooting it with like a like hitting it with the nade is like basically the same thing. So headhunter is effective. Oh, sorry, let me restart that. Increase the weapon equip time after teleporting from 0.4 seconds to 0.7 seconds. So the headhunter is unaffected by this change. So what that means is, now that you got a single anchor, you're going to be more susceptible to being rushed, because you're obviously going to be in limited range, 30 meters. So if there's like a neon that you fail to kill and then you teleported away, they might be able to catch up to you, and before you can get your weapon out after teleporting, you'll die. And a headhunter is a way to stop this potentially. So I think most of the time you're going to be teleporting and pulling a headhunter instantly if you're getting pushed. Destroying rendezvous teleport anchor disables it for the round of the round. Most of the time it did that anyway. Like the cooldown would be too high for the remainder of the round anyway. Very fringe cases where it wasn't most of the time. But on the first, first kill, maybe this is relevant. But like I said, like most of the time you're not going to be dying before your anchor. Sorry, most of the time your anchor's not going to be dying before you. You're going to be dying first. Most of the time. In very, very like random cases, probably, but your anchor die first. Chamber no longer incurs an additional cooldown, recalling his anchor after teleporting. Which is, I mean, fine. I mean, it's like quality of life, and with having a single anchor probably. Health decreased, just making him a bit easier to play. Overall, I think. Funnily enough, I think all these changes actually make him easier to play, just not when we're used to the old Chamber. So I think as time moves on, Chamber will be an easier agent to play overall. But these changes actually go against that. But we'll see. The health decrease, this is for Phantoms, I think. So this was 2 bullets for a Vandal. This wasn't always 2 bullets for a Phantom. So this is 2 bullets for a Vandal and a Phantom. It is. Because it's like 26 plus 26 is 52 for a Phantom. And then obviously this is always 80. So Vandal's always 80, so numbers lower than both of those things, so they're going to be bullet. Trademark. Trap is now range restricted. Trademark will disable when Trademark will oh my god, I can't read either. Trademark will disable when Chamber moves out of range and reactivate once he is inside. Let's slow down a bit, shall we? So basically, he's going to be moving more like Killjoy, moving into more that direction, because I think Chamber has a similar identity to Killjoy. So what that means is Chamber was always similar to Killjoy in that sense, where if you move into his areas, he'll want to contest you, and he does it in a slightly different way than Killjoy. Killjoy does it with her traps and she will still be there, but she's going to be a bit more hands off than what Chamber would be. Chamber's like, if you move into this area, then I'm going to be there and I'm going to kill you and I'm going to slow your teammates and kill them too. That's kind of like how he would, like, that's like what his fantasy is like, right? Cypher's a bit different as well as a Sentinel. He's like gathering information from across the map, knowing if someone's entered an area. That's kind of like how Cypher works. And sometimes he can play for the kills. And Sage is a completely different story. She's just completely different. And more in the trademark, can now be recalled mid-range without line of sight, 30 seconds on recall. Destruction remains permanent. Initial arm time is from 2 seconds to 4 seconds. That is increased from 1 to 20. I mean, these changes are fine and normal. The biggest change is probably this and this, because the 30 seconds on recall, basically, before when we had 2 traps, you could use one to like clear angles when you were like doing a retake or something, or just in general attacking. And now this gives you that option at the cost of a cooldown. After you've like cleared flank and you're moving out of the range of the trademark, you can recall it and then use it to like maybe clear something later if you're playing particularly slow. But at the same time, you probably want to just keep in range of the things so that you have the anti-flank if you're playing slow. And then the additional arm time shouldn't really mean massive amount, to be honest. And the health increase is probably just so isn't insta-die to util. So tour de force fire rate decreased by 57.5%. So that is a very specific number, but the reason being is because I'm pretty sure this is now the exact same speed as the operator. I know that means the only advantage you have with the tour de force is the fact that you got it with ultimate points. So it doesn't cost money, it doesn't cost credits, it costs ultimate points instead, which means it's technically free as far as credits go, but not free for agent economy really. And the other thing is that it also drops like a slow field for 4 seconds, which is the new duration of both the trademark and the tour de force. So they've made him overall a lot weaker, but I think he's in a better position to balance overall. And I think he's actually overall an easier agent to understand when he how he's strong, right? And when he's strong and how to play against him. So I think overall he's got easier to play, easier to understand, easier to play against. At the same time, he's become more balanced, or become easier to balance in the future. Because right now, I think he's actually in quite a balanced state, but I think right now there's a lot of bias around like remembering old Chamber and what he used to be. So everyone thinks he's a bit weaker than he actually is. So I think overall these are good changes for Chamber, a lot healthier for the overall game. Then we go on to Cypher, health increase from 1 to 20, so his tripwires don't instantly die. To like utility, or mollies now that the trapwire can be hit by mollies. Bipolar health decrease from 100 to 60, which is so good. Actually, I say it's so good, is it? I mean, it goes from 3 bullets to 2, right? Yeah, 3 bullets to 2. Which is actually, yeah, it's pretty good. That's pretty good. I think the Prola is not penetrable, so when you shoot it, the bullets don't go through it, they'll just eat the bullets. I would prefer it if they just made it penetrable, because a lot of the time people blocking bullets with the Prola is really frustrating. Sometimes when it happens, obviously it doesn't happen a massive amount, but it happens enough for it to actually be frustrating for me. Think about it constantly. About Prolas, like whenever I think about Prolas, it's one of the first things I think about. Maybe it doesn't. I'm just like salty. Harbor. Speaking of salty, so I think Harbor is one of the most underrated agents right now. Because I think a lot of people just don't understand how to play him. He's a bit of a weird agent overall, but I think he is on the stronger side of things. And I also think that he's also the hardest agent in the game, because I think he's maybe I would think differently if Yoru came out at the same time as Harbor. Maybe I think Yoru is harder. So maybe Yoru is still the hardest agent. But I think Harbor is like very close, if not harder, because he has a lot of things you need to think about when you're smoking that a lot of other agents don't really need. Like things like positioning. Like Omen doesn't need to think about positioning when he's actually smoking that much. Brim doesn't either. I mean, maybe like looking at the range of their smokes, I mean probably you do a tiny bit, but Harbor needs to actually look at his actual positioning, like pinpoint on the map instead of like just in a general range. He also has like really strong defaults. But the thing is like you need to understand how your cascade works, and when you need to be mechanically pressing the button, you need to be thinking about it all the time when it's out, and like when I'm going to stop it. And you can make some very interesting angles that can also be immensely detrimental to your team if you don't understand how to play him, basically. And that makes him weak because people don't understand how to play him, and they're a detriment to that team. And that's why they think that he's weak. His Cove is also a very, very interesting ability that I think a lot of people underestimate. Bear in mind, it is a shield, which is interesting, which is very interesting for this type of game, like a tactical shooter rather than like an Overwatch or something. I guess I don't know. I've watched his an arcade shooter. It's going off topic really. But the Cove has some interesting mechanics around it. Even funnily enough, it actually combines really well with Yoru, which is one of the other, which is like a really hard agent as well. One of probably the contender for like the hardest agent with Harbor. So duration of High Tide has gone up by 3 seconds. Cascade has gone up by 2. So overall, he's got an increase in smoke time, which is like, I don't know, 29 seconds-ish, right? 15, 14, yeah, 29 seconds. He's first Cove as well, which is, I think, I'm not sure how long Cove lasts for, like 8 seconds, but it's a shield, so it can get destroyed really fast. So we'll say like 31-ish seconds, right? Judging that Cove can be up for like 2 seconds, maybe 1 second, so 30, 31 seconds worth of smoke time, which is not honestly an immense amount, but every little helps really with smoke agents. Especially in things like solo queue. I'm guessing competitive as well. It can definitely help you. But in ranked, it can mean a lot more. And that's, I think, what these changes are actually aimed at are ranked, not really competitive. But obviously, smoke time is going to help competitive. So one of the biggest things with it is that your default is stronger, basically. So you have more time with the cascade to get into a position where you can either where you can use like util to flash through, or you can like just run up and get into a different position and ready to like fight beyond the cascade and things like that. I think overall Harbor is a really good agent, and I think that he's immensely underrated. KO. So KO's got his 0 point because he's affected by mollies now. It's been up to 1 second. Oh, sorry, what 20 HP instead of 1 HP. I just can't speak today. I can't speak, can't read. I don't know what's wrong with me. Null command, so that's his ult. Is it? Was it C? X. Is this meant to be X? Oh, good. Ultimate points increase 7 to 8, which is big, right? He's got one of the strongest ultimates in the game, mainly because of its uniqueness, right? It stops people from retaliating to fights. It stops people from helping their teammates on site, and it reduces people down to like, you know, CS players with no nades, you know. That's what it reduces them down to. And it can be really, really strong because of that, right? It makes it so the edge you have as an agent, right, with the small abilities or the big abilities you have, you can't use them, and it makes it insanely strong ability to have. I actually would like to see it nerf to his 0 point, maybe from 8 seconds to like 5 seconds, 6 seconds. But null command ult points is probably all we're going to get. I think KO overall is in a balance there anyway. If anything, I think 0 points just one of those annoying abilities that I like to see nerfed. Even though I do play KO, I think overall it's a very annoying ability. Killjoy. So health increase from 150 to 200. So this is actually a big change because I think on Fracture, if you place it underground, Aftershock no longer kills it. Oh, not if you place it underground, but I don't think Breach Aftershock kills it anymore. I think it does 180 damage, and the health has been increased past 180, so it's 200, which means that it needs like 20 more health. Oh, sorry, 20 more health worth of damage, 20 more damage being dealt to it, which means that you probably have to. I think you can wallbang it probably, but not very consistently. Oh, I wouldn't say it's consistent to wallbang the Killjoy ult through the floor. Especially because I think you need a high penetration. Medium penetration is not enough. At least for the area that most Killjoys put it. I could be wrong though. So that's going to be a big change for like Fracture meta and maybe even stuff like Pearl meta. Don't know how that's going to evolve. So that could be a massive change. For any map that's Killjoy being played on, that Breach is also being played on. I think Brim Molly can kill it though. I think that's one of the only things that can kill it by itself. So I think Killjoy meta is going to be on the horizon basically. Nanoswarm has been increased from 1 to 20, so they don't just instantly die when in a molly. Omen Paranoia has been cost decreased from 300 to 250. I actually think this should have been the change for a long time now. But it is what it is. I also think Eldro needs to be nerfed down from 400. Sorry, buffed down from 400 to like 300 or something. That ability is way too expensive. Phoenix 200 to 150 makes a lot of sense because his wall is nowhere near as impactful as I think other walls in the game. And I also think overall he is one of those agents that should have a cheaper kit than most, especially because the balance of the agent is not really there 100%. So right now I don't think this is worth 200. I would have liked them to actually increase like the efficiency of plays in a different way, like maybe increase the duration or something. Allow him to gain movement speed, or maybe a flat heal when he moves through it one time. Something like that, right? Make it actually worth his 200 rather than reduce it down to 150. I think I would have preferred that than see this, but it makes sense. Ray's Boombot health is decreased in line with the Prowlers. Thank God. I mean, this one was way less problematic than Prowlers, though. If anything, I'm okay. I mean, I was okay with this being 100. Blast Pack has been from 1 to 20, so it doesn't instantly die mollies again. Sage, so the barrier, so I don't know 100% with these breakpoints, right? So the barrier orb 45 delay has been increased by 0.3 seconds, right? I don't know 100% with the mass with this. So when you caught the barrier fortifying from the start, a single person with a full clip with a Vandal or a Phantom could kill one segment, right? I don't know if anything changes there because it would take you basically the whole clip to do that. So I don't think you can kill 2 segments as one person. With 2 people, you could already kill 2 segments as long as you were shooting different segments. Or you can kill 1 segment immensely fast. With 3 people, that's where it could potentially change, where maybe you get to kill like 3 segments without real coordination with what segments you're going to shoot. Or like, I would say it's even coordination really, because it's really hard on the fly to be like, you shoot that segment, I'll shoot this one, because it's taking obviously 3 seconds to fortify. So you don't really have time to talk about that sort of stuff. Unless you already planned it out, if you're like playing a particular team and they do something certain with the barrier, or like someone's done it every round in ranked or something. So this 0.3 probably does mean something when you move up in the amount of players that see it fortify, but I think with 1 player it doesn't make too much difference. I could be wrong, obviously, but I'm pretty sure it's something to do with having 2 or 3 players, maybe even more than that, watching the barrier go up. It could also be something to do with catching the barrier at certain timings at the start of the round. So in Haven B, when the wall goes up in the window, there might be a timing where you just about can't kill it because the fortify goes off as you come around the corner. Like you come around the corner, start shooting it, and you don't quite have enough time to shoot it. You don't have quite enough time to get the bullets out to bring down the segment of the wall. And that's probably what this might be targeting as well, where at the start of the round you couldn't quite get the segment killed by yourself, and now this allows that to happen. So there's like two reasons I can think that this change would occur, and I think both changes are good changes. Healing orb, self-heal limit. Oh, this is a very controversial change. I remember seeing this all over online, on like Twitter and things. Self-heal total amount decrease 60 HP to 30 HP. Alloy heal amount increase from 60 to 100. Oh no. So I think overall these changes from a balance perspective make sense, because they don't want, also from a balance, but from a, like, I guess from a balance perspective too, but from a identity perspective. So do you want Sage to be Reyna? Is sort of the question you want to ask yourself, or do you? Well, obviously she's not going to have the height of Reyna, the ceiling of Reyna, but do you want her to like cosplay Reyna for 1 round or one kill basically, where she can get a kill and then heal that HP? Do you want to do that, or maybe it's more like Phoenix? Do you want her to be able to do that? And the answer for Riot was no. Clearly, do we want Sage to have a place healing and still not be able to cosplay Phoenix for a kill? And the answer is yes. So they essentially want her to be able to have a lot of impact when she isn't the first one in, which makes a lot of sense for Sage in general, right? Because she's all about slowing people and getting people, like stopping the enemy from entering into her space. Enough time for her teammates that will want to go in to go first. And then when they go first, they can get healed, they can get rezzed. So it always made sense for Sage to be second, right? Whenever she had res up especially, it always made sense for her to go in second. And I guess with these changes, it didn't really show that, right? Also, before these changes, it didn't really show that, right? Like, if you didn't have res, then you could just go in first, because there wasn't anything really stopping you, or like that made sense as a, like, from utility standpoint. If you didn't have res, weren't really like locked in to go second or to go third or something. But with these changes now, you're a lot more like when your signature's up and your ult's up. This is when you actually should go in second, and that makes it a lot more common for her to go in second. To get the trade and then res, or to get the trade and then heal. Maybe herself, I guess. If you get that, you get a trade, then I guess you're healing yourself. You're not healing the teammate that's dead. But maybe it's like the teammate got the first kill, close first kill, 120, minus 120 on the first on your teammate. You heal them. Yeah, I think overall it makes sense with her identity. So the Recon Bolt has been up from like, where's Aldrin? Someone please buff Aldrin. It's unbelievably bad. Health increased 1 to 20. I think the only reason why his Aldrin hasn't been nerfed yet is because Breeze is done a rotation. But guess what? Breeze is not in a rotation soon, so I think that Aldrin is going to get buffed after Breeze rotates out. But unfortunately, as well, I actually love Breeze. I just wish they would keep it. Trailblazer for Sky. Cost increased from 350 to 300. And regrowth has gone down from 200 to 150. So they've kept her overall the same amount of cost for her util, but they've moved even more cost onto this. So this, for me, even makes it even more in line that Aldrin should be 300. I'm just going to keep going on about Aldrin the whole time. I'm a bit biased, obviously. But Trailblade, this makes it worse for Sky players because obviously your best ability is now 300 instead of 250. So it's going to be some, like, you're going to have to maybe sacrifice more to get Trailblazer in some range. Obviously, it's not massive, but over the course of multiple games, multiple rounds playing Sky, you're going to feel this. The overall just like I think makes it's like a tiny bit of a nerf to Sky. Overall, Viper. So we're reeling in Viper's ability to play outside of her ultimate smoke area. Oh, yeah, I saw about this as well. So smoke integrity regen time is now from 5 seconds to 25 seconds. Max timeout of smoke decreased from 15 to 8 seconds, and ultimate points required 7 to 8. So, in my opinion, it was either one or the other with these changes. So what I mean is, it's either these two changes or it's this. In my opinion, maybe it may be a lighter version of this with this, and then scrap that. But I do understand that they want the pit to be something that if you move into her area, then she's going to kill you. And not so much that she's going to put down a massive ass smoke and then move around it and outplay you with the geometry of the map. I don't think they really want that, and clearly they don't. So they're going to remove basically the ability to do that for a lot of the time your Viper pits up. I think that makes sense. So I think they probably didn't need to move this to 8 with these two changes, but I think overall it makes sense. And I think she's going to be a lot weaker when the Viper's pit goes up overall, because there's going to be a lot less things that she can do, and overall people are going to get more understanding of the timings of this, where she can be, because the smoke pit doesn't go up, but it isn't going down right now. It means that she can't be in this position because the smoke pit would have went down by now. That's sort of like how people would assess this. 15 seconds was a very long time to assess that. 8 seconds is more realistic to assess that kind of change, or like to assess that kind of timing, especially when people can get used to how people might play out situations. 8 seconds is a lot more memorable than 15, so I have to see how it goes overall. But I think overall, the Viper pit is notably weaker now in a lot of the ways that you would use it to outplay people. So Yoru's gate crash. Health has been decreased, which is very weird, but I mean, it's fun. And cost has been decreased from 200 to 150. Oh, okay, that actually makes sense. Okay, I actually think this is a good change overall for Yoru. Because very rarely does this die anyway, honestly. So, I mean, you take it 100 less for both gate crashes. Actually, no, hang on. You only buy one, right, for gate crash? His signature? Yeah. It's just 50 less. Okay. I mean, that's still good. And then we've got gameplay, assist tail tuning. Talking about how like the amount of assists, or like it's going to increase the amount of assists in the game generally, probably. And these are the damage interaction updates. I won't go through every single thing, but essentially, Incendiary is going to damage more things. Ultra Strength will damage more things. Phoenix has more things it damages. How Knife now gets hit by certain things. Fragment now damages Fade Prowler, which should have been damaging it anyway. Everything now damages Fade Prowler. Thank God, that thing is annoying. And then damage multiplier updates. So Main thing to note is that Breach does 100% damage to non-players now, so that means the 180 damage doesn't kill Killdrew's ult. And I think Brimmy still does 50%, which is I think 240 to non-players. So I think it is 480, but I could be wrong. I could be very wrong. But I'm pretty sure it does do more than 200, but I could be wrong. I don't know the 100% if I'm right there, but I'm pretty sure it is 240. I don't know about Snakeboy. Snakeboy actually would deal like barely any damage. I think it does 145, 140, 125. I got plenty of numbers in my head for Snakebite, but none of them are probably right. Dude, I look like a ghost as well with this weapon. Look like a ghost. So these all have allied ability, immunity, which they should add anyway, in my opinion. And then we go into weapons updates. This is the last thing I'll look at. So the Spectre has been overperforming in mid to long ranges. As a result, what's crazy about other options on partial buys. I don't think the Spectre has been outperforming anything, to be honest. I think the Stinger is good. I think the Marshall is good. And I think the Spectre's the one you buy if you don't have a particular way that you can play at that round. So I don't think it was overperforming necessarily. I think it was just like the default option. And when you don't have the option to go for a Marshall, you don't have the option to go for a Stinger for whatever reasons, you have to go those two weapons. Even some cases, I think the Bookie can outperform the Spectre. Even though I think the Bookie is actually a terrible weapon. I think there's some cases, mainly to do with like playing Raze or Harbor, that allows you to go Bookies. Or even Judge, which is only a tiny bit more expensive than the Spectre. I did the third damage range to Spectre and updated distances. New distances and body shot damages are 26, 0, 15, 26, 15 to 30, 22, and 30 meters plus 20 meters. For reference, all ranges were 26 and 20. So basically, there's a new version of 30 meters plus. Actually, overall, wait, is this a better? Wait, overall, this is fine, right? So you get the better damage 5 meters less, but for 10 meters more, you get 20. You get the old damage. I think overall, this is like balanced. Yeah, this is actually balanced. This is like compared to this, like this is actually more balanced. But I think this would incentivize actually going the Marshall more in some maps. Funny that Breeze is moving out though with these changes. Once again, I'm still going to be salty about Breeze moving, even though I like Breeze. Especially compared to Fracture. Okay. Although to be fair, I like watching Fracture. Fracture is a really fun map to watch in Pro, but it's terrible to play in my opinion. Okay, and then Swift Play. I've actually played Swift Play, and then my internet's back up, so I had to play some games. It was fun. So recommend playing that if you want to play it. And then there's bugs, but I'm not going to go over the bugs. Thanks for watching the video. If you want to see more, I'm sorry to practice right now, but I'll get back into it. Don't worry. Especially coming the new year as well, I'm going to be grinding a lot more. If you want to like give me some feedback or yeah, just give me some feedback. Have your thoughts on these changes. I love reading other people's opinions on this stuff. I will see you in the next